We are entering week 11, and Lamar Jackson is starting to separate himself from the rest of the pack when it comes to the MVP race. What in the world is going on with the Baltimore Ravens pass defense? And Mike Tomlin and the Pittsburgh Steelers play mind games with the Baltimore Ravens. All this and more coming up next. But first, Ravens fly. Let's fly. Alrighty, we are in week 11. The season has just crept upon us, and it is Pittsburgh Steelers week. Yes, last week we had a divisional matchup versus the Cincinnati Bengals, and the hate is strong there, but the Baltimore Ravens have owned the Cincinnati Bengals over the Lamar Jackson era. But when it comes to the Pittsburgh Steelers, it has been a totally different thing. Since 2020, the Baltimore Ravens are 1-7 versus the Pittsburgh Steelers. Their last win coming in December of 2022 up in Pittsburgh. And their last home win versus the Steelers came in the 2019 season during the last week when the backups came in and beat the Steelers down. So the Baltimore Ravens and Lamar Jackson have not had a lot of success beating the Steelers, but this week it is a little bit different. In years past, the Pittsburgh Steelers have not had a quarterback to run their offense. They were getting due with makeshift parts. They found a QB off of the island of misfit toys, but they seemed to make it work. This season, they started off with Justin Fields. He played well, and then they brought in Russell Wilson, and the team has taken off. Now, the Pittsburgh Steelers currently lead the division at 7-2, and the Ravens are a half game behind them at 7-3. So the winner of this game will take a lead in the AFC North moving forward. This is going to be a game highlighted by two premier franchises and what should be one of the games of the year. The Baltimore Ravens Pittsburgh Steelers rivalry used to be a thing of legends. It was always in prime time. They always had this game singled out just because you did not know what was going to happen. Now we have entered a new era in this division rivalry, and we shall see where it goes. We no longer have the Ray Lewises and the Terrell Suggs and the Ed Reeds and the Ben Roethlisbergers and the Le'Veon Bells and Jerome Bettises, but each team has their own cast of characters, and this could also be a revenge game. Patrick Queen, last season, was very successful with the Baltimore Ravens, decided to sign a contract with the Pittsburgh Steelers and talk some ish about Baltimore like he was never part of this organization. But it's okay because we're going to show him, we're going to let Derrick Henry hit him with that stiff arm for a little bit and show him which team is truly dominant. Now, Kyle Hamilton may not play this game. We don't know. It's still up in the air. X-rays on his sprained ankle were positive, but they don't know if he is actually going to be ready as of right now. And for the Pittsburgh Steelers, their linebacker Alex Highsmith, he is out for this game, and he may be out for the foreseeable future. So we don't know how that is going to affect their defense going forward. But I don't think that with these two teams, defense is where it's going to be at. It's going to be two high-powered offenses going up against one another. Lamar Jackson in his MVP 3 type season going up against Russell Wilson in this rejuvenated offense. And of course, we're going to have our rivalry. Everybody's going to talk their stuff, but know that there is a mutual respect between the two teams. Mike Tomlin himself came out, and we don't know. It could have been a little bit of wordplay. It could have been a little bit of gamesmanship, but they asked him about comparing Jaden Daniels to Lamar Jackson. And he's like, come on, guys.
Real slow comparing people to Lamar Jackson. That's a multi-time MVP. That's Mr. Jackson. We'll see Mr. Jackson in a few days.
We're talking about a 2-time MVP versus a rookie. Let's not get it twisted. Let's put the respect where it's due. Now, while I do think that Tomlin respects Lamar Jackson, he respects the Ravens, it's a little bit of we're playing this guy and we don't want to give him any bulletin board material because Lamar Jackson is balling without it. And that leads us to the MVP race. Now, before this past weekend, and right after the Baltimore Ravens played the game versus the Cincinnati Bengals, where Lamar Jackson had 290 yards passing and 4 touchdowns, they were still chirping, they were still talking on Twitter. You had the pundits on TV talk about they have this person leading for MVP. Oh, this guy's leading. He's so efficient. He's doing that, when they're really not watching the games. If you want total efficiency, look at Lamar Jackson. If you watch Lamar Jackson pass 15 of 17, he's going to have 250 yards. Whereas you have this other quarterback, who I'm not going to say right now, but he can go 12 of 14, but he'll have 85 yards passing. How is that similar? Lamar is making more of it, and this other quarterback has some weapons, like some real legitimate weapons. But when it comes to the MVP race, and after this Thursday night game, I couldn't wait for Sunday to happen. And then it did. And what did we get a dose of?
Play action. Allen looking deep. Now fires, and it's picked off. DJ Speed. Speed with Matt Allen throwing on first down. It's picked off. Kenny Moore. Nobody touched him. Gives the back 2nd and 11. It's deflected towards Gibbs, and it's intercepted. Off the deflection, Jimmy Ward. There is the play action. Goff pressured out to move that ball. Got hit, knocked out. It is free, and it's in the hands of the Texans. Never hit. Plus, someone out there around Goff has to go left to load up and throw right, throwing downfield. And it is intercepted at 3. Loss of a yard from Montgomery. In the 20, Goff shot from the end zone, intercepted. He's trying to get it to left. Going to take another deep shot for Jameson Williams. That's going to be intercepted. That is 5 interceptions for Goff.
Yes, Mr. Oh, he played better than Lamar last year, and he did these, and he should have had an MVP by now. And look, guys, he hasn't thrown any interceptions. Well, he's thrown 4 interceptions over the last couple of weeks. What are you going to say now? He didn't have any touchdowns. But I guess you're going to say he had 50 yards rushing and 1 touchdown rushing. Cool. But those are running stats. And y'all love talking about how Lamar's a running back. So what did he do passing? Yes, 280 yards, 2 interceptions, no touchdowns.
Is this your game?
Against a not really good Colts team. But I digress. And then let's take a look at the leader, the one that most people were like, oh gosh, this is definitely my front runner for the MVP. And that is Jared Goff. And what did Jared Goff do this weekend? Threw 5 interceptions.
Did that go the way you thought it was going to go? Nope.
5. I mean, if you take Josh Allen's total season and Lamar Jackson total season and put them together, that's 6 interceptions for the season between those 2 quarterbacks. And Jared Goff has 5 in one game, but he's efficient and he's the front runner for MVP. So after this weekend, I think that we truly see who has distanced themselves within the MVP race. Now, granted, all 3 teams won, but in Detroit, they won in spite of their quarterback. In Buffalo, they won because of their defense. You know, these things that we used to hear about Lamar Jackson. Oh, Lamar's not doing it. It's his defense. Well, if you look at the Cincinnati game and you look at what Cincinnati and Joe Burrow and Jamar Chase did, you can't say the defense won that game. That was truly Lamar. And he was truly amazing. He was. So I think for me, even though it's not important, and I only do this and say this because every time Lamar does this, you guys jump on Twitter and say, well, my quarterback. What about him? Which quarterback had the best week this week? Which quarterback had the best season so far? And I'm going to leave that one right there. I'll let sleeping dogs lie. But the one thing that we cannot let lie, the one thing that we cannot overlook, the one that we cannot skirt over is the Baltimore Ravens defense. And we talked about the Cincinnati game. We talked about what happened and how Jamar Chase went off for 260 yards receiving. Joe Burrow had another 400 yards passing, 4 touchdowns. I mean, they were a 2-man wrecking crew versus 11 other defenders. 2 people versus 11, and they could not stop them one bit. And what is the problem? We keep asking this week after week, video after video. What is the problem with the Baltimore Ravens defense? Nobody really knows. We cannot figure it out. And every week we keep saying, well, let's give them another week to figure things out. Let's see if they can get the communication down. But here we are going into week 11, and we're still talking about the same things that we've been talking about since week 1. They aren't covering tight ends. They aren't covering the middle of the field. Brandon Stevens is not getting his head turned around. Roquan Smith, day late and a dollar short. And Marcus Williams is a liability in coverage. I think it's time that we make a move. I think it's time that we do something different because the playoffs is steadily approaching and this defense is not getting better. It is not. Going into week 11, the Baltimore Ravens pass defense is giving up 294.9 yards per game. So 295 yards per game through the air. Last in the NFL. That is the most amount of yards given up passing since 2015. So damn near 10 years ago. We got to go back 10 years to find a pass defense as bad as this one. But I can guarantee you, whatever defense that was, they didn't have the collection of talent that the Baltimore Ravens do right now. Every level of this defense, we have guys who have been to the Pro Bowl or who was an All-Pro. We have guys that have been the best at what they do at their position, but for some reason, we just can't get stops. We just can't stop people from catching the ball or running right past us. And one of the biggest culprits is the quote unquote gem of the ball, $70 million man, Marcus Williams. When I read this stat, I had to stop and think about it for a second and look it up and kind of quantify in my mind what it actually meant. Marcus Williams has a 158.3 quarterback rating against him when it comes to passing. Is it just me, or is that a perfect passer rating? 158.3. Is that not a perfect passer rating? So you're telling me when people target Marcus Williams, they're perfect. Their passer rating is perfect. And this is the $70 million man that we brought in here and thought was going to be transformative to this defense. And I understand things happen, injuries happen, people slow down, and they're just not what they were. I get that. But this is what you foreshadowed giving $70 million to, and him becoming this. Him being replaced by Eddie Jackson and then having to be brought back in because Eddie Jackson was that much worse. And this guy's giving up a perfect passer rate. So I can imagine what Eddie Jackson's doing. And then we have cornerback Brandon Stephens. I've been hard on Brandon Stephens this first couple of years, even though they've moved him around from position to position. And last year, he did his thing. And I thought that Brandon Stephens was going to come into this season and price himself out of Baltimore. I really thought that his level of play was ascending to the point where he was going to be one of those guys that was going to get a big contract. But as of right now, Brandon Stephens has given up the third most yards in the NFL. There are only two cornerbacks in this league that have given up more yards than him. All the talent that's around him, and he's talented. I'm not gonna lie. He's sticky in coverage, whatever the hell that means. But he has enough talent to where he should not be giving up all of these yards. And I understand they target him a lot. And that's because they know that he does not get his head turned around when the ball's in the air. I get that. But the third most yards in the league and a perfect passer rating safety, that is a recipe for disaster. And these things better get fixed before we make it to the playoffs, or else it's going to be a very long day, and not in a good way. And then when you want to bring it down even further, you come down, you go from your secondary, you go from your safety to your cornerback to your linebackers, you got Roquan Smith. And then once you bring it in and you talk about Roquan Smith and the coverage that he is providing versus tight ends, he's feeling real toasty right now. Like, they hike the ball and he sits down by his fire and gets out his s'mores. And, he just gets toasty. It's getting cold outside. It's November. And he's not doing a wonderful job as well. The only group that we really have a grip on is the defensive line. And that's with Travis Jones being healthy. We're missing Michael Pierce. But with Travis Jones and Nnamdi Madubuike, we are solid. We are decent. Broderick Washington is chipping in a little bit. But they seem to be the only group that is solid. The edge, linebackers, corners, and the safeties outside of Kyle Hamilton and Marlon Humphrey seem to be trash. And this needs to be fixed, or the Ravens aren't going anywhere in the playoffs. And this week, also outside of Ravens football, because we always tell you guys, make sure you check out other games. Make sure you see how other organizations are run, how other footballers play, not just the Baltimore Ravens. And we have a real big game this weekend. We have the Kansas City Chiefs traveling to play the Buffalo Bills up in Orchard Park, New York. And you have the 9-0 Chiefs versus the 7-2 Bills. So either way, this can help out the Ravens. Hopefully, if the Chiefs lose, it may start a trend. They may keep losing. We may catch them. If the Bills lose, coolio. We're tied in losses at that point, and we have the tiebreaker over them. Because even if we cannot get the number one seed, we need to get a home playoff game. No matter what it is, we need a home playoff game. So we need to keep pace. And we've had trouble playing the Steelers, so we got to win this game. And then we need some help. But I do believe if we win out the rest of our games, everything will play itself out. The Ravens will get the number 2 seed, and we should be good to go. We don't want that number 1 seed. We don't know what to do with it. Get it out of here. Don't want it. But check out this game. It is going to be competition because one way or another, we may play one or both of these teams in the playoffs. Depending upon how these things shake out, we could face, let's say, the Bills in the divisional round and then the Chiefs in the AFC Championship game. And I know we trounced the Bills earlier this season, but they are a whole different team. They got some pieces. They got some guys coming back, and our defense has gotten worse. So check the game out, get you some different NFL football, and just enjoy the weekend because there's some really good football that's going to be played. Now, before I get out of here, listen, I was at the game, and I picked up my little Purple Rising helmet. Yeah. But guess what? it's not for me. I didn't get it for me. So we'll do a raffle. We'll do a giveaway. And I do believe that possibly on Sunday, I'm not for certain of this, we should be streaming the Pittsburgh Steelers Baltimore Ravens game. And during that live stream, we're going to have a drawing for the Baltimore Ravens helmet, the Purple Rising helmet. I'm going to give it away. But the only requirement is you have to be subscribed to the channel. Outside of that, no other requirements, no other restrictions. And listen, can't wait till Sunday. Let's hope this week goes the way that we need it to. And I will see you guys then.
Nah, man, I'm cool.